The peaceful night sky is a lie. Our moon is not a guardian. It is a scar from a violent apocalypse, and it is slowly abandoning us. From bleeding volcanoes to hidden oceans, discover why the quietest worlds hold the darkest secrets. Hello there and welcome to the Sleepy Science. I am so glad you have joined me tonight. Before you close your eyes, I want you to imagine something terrifyingly beautiful. Imagine looking up at the night sky, at that pale silver orb that has watched over every human who has ever lived. It looks still, doesn't it? It looks eternal, frozen in the black velvet of space, a faithful companion that never wavers. But this is a lie. The truth is much more heartbreaking. The moon is leaving us. Right now, as you lie there, in the absolute silence of your room, the moon is inching away, retreating into the darkness, abandoning the earth that created it. It is a slow, agonizing goodbye that has been happening for billions of years, a cosmic divorce played out in slow motion. The face you see tonight is the closest it will ever be to you again. Tomorrow, it will be gone just a little bit further. Whatever comfort you find in its presence, hold on to it tightly, because nothing in this universe, not even the ground beneath your feet, and certainly not the sky above your head, is truly permanent. We are living in a fleeting moment of perfect alignment, a temporary pause in a violent, chaotic story. If you want to continue this journey through the hidden sorrows and secrets of the cosmos, I invite you to subscribe to the channel now. Help us build this sanctuary of quiet curiosity, so we can keep exploring the universe together, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, let the weight of the day fall from your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Let your breathing slow down to match the rhythm of the tides, those vast heaving oceans that are secretly pushing our companion away. Let us drift back to the beginning. To understand the moon, we have to understand the violence of its birth. We look at it now and see a peaceful, glowing pearl, but it was born from fire. There was a time, 4.5 billion years ago, when the Earth was young and alone. It had no companion. It spun wildly, a molten, angry world. Then came Theia, a planet the size of Mars, a wandering ghost in the early solar system, careening through the dark. It didn't just strike the Earth, it liquefied it. Imagine a collision so cataclysmic that it turned rock into vapor. The sky would have been a blinding white-hot dome. The Earth melted, stripped of its outer layers, screaming into the void. From this wreckage, from this ring of boiling debris and magma circling our wounded planet, the moon coalesced. It is not a stranger to us. It is made of us. When you look at the moon, you are looking at a piece of Earth's own flesh and bone, torn away in a moment of apocalypse, now cooled and hardened into a silent ghost. It is a scar that glows in the dark. This shared bloodline explains why we are so connected. But relationships in space are governed by the cold laws of physics, not sentiment. And the laws of physics dictate that the moon must leave. It happens because of a transfer of energy, a celestial dance of theft. As the Earth spins, it drags the oceans with it, creating the tidal bulges that rise and fall along our coastlines. But the moon's gravity pulls back on those oceans, creating friction. This friction acts like a brake, imperceptibly slowing down the Earth's rotation. We are losing time. Billions of years ago, a day on Earth lasted only 6 hours. The planet spun dizzily fast. Over the eons, the moon has stolen that spin, calming us, lengthening our days to the 24 hours we know now. But there is a price for this stability. As the Earth slows, it transfers that rotational energy to the moon, pushing it into a higher orbit. It drifts away about 1.5 inches every single year, roughly the speed at which your fingernails grow. It seems insignificant, a tiny distance in the vastness of space. But over the deep time of the universe, it adds up to a tragedy. There will come a time in the unimaginable future when the moon will be so far away that it will no longer cover the sun. There will be no more total solar eclipses. The perfect ring of fire that inspires such awe in us today will be a thing of the past, a legend told by whatever beings inherit the earth. The moon will become a small, distant, star-like object, and the earth, lonely once more, will spin slowly in the twilight. The sky our ancestors saw was dominated by a giant looming moon, a terrifyingly close neighbor. The sky our descendants will see will be empty and dark. We are the lucky ones, living in the brief, golden era, where the moon is just close enough to hold us, but far enough not to destroy us. But what is it like to actually stand there? To stand on that fleeing world? If you could step onto the lunar surface right now, the first thing you would notice is not the sight, but the silence. It is a silence deeper than anything on Earth. A silence that presses against your ears. If you were to kneel down and scoop up a handful of that gray, powdery soil, the regolith, and bring it inside your ship, you would be greeted by a smell that defies all logic. When the Apollo astronauts climbed back into their lunar modules, unsealed their helmets, and breathed the air of the cabin, they were hit by a pungent, acrid scent. They described it vividly. They said the moon smells like spent gunpowder. It smells like the aftermath of a shootout. It smells like war. How strange that this world of peace, this symbol of romance and dreams, smells like burning ash. Scientists believe this is because the dust is sharp and chemically reactive, bombarded by the solar wind for billions of years without an atmosphere to protect it. The dust is jagged, like microscopic shards of glass, because there is no wind and no water to smooth down the edges. It is a harsh, abrasive world that clings to everything. And because there is no wind, there is no forgiveness. On Earth, our footprints are washed away by the rain or blown away by the breeze within hours. We pass through the world like ghosts, leaving no trace. But on the moon, the past is preserved in perfect frozen clarity. The boot prints left by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are still there, exactly as they were the moment they were made decades ago. Every ridge of the sole, every undisturbed pebble, remains locked in the vacuum. Unless a meteor strikes that specific spot, those footprints will remain there for millions of years. Long after our cities have crumbled to dust, long after our civilization has faded into myth, and perhaps long after humanity has ceased to exist entirely, those footprints will sit there in the silence, a testament that we were here, that we were curious, that we once reached up and touched the face of our drifting companion. It is a haunting thought, isn't it? That the moon holds our history better than Earth ever could. It carries the memory of our world's violent birth, and it carries the physical mark of our greatest achievement. It is a museum of stillness, moving away from us inch by inch, carrying our secrets into the dark. So tonight, as you lay in the safety of gravity, think of that silver anchor drifting in the black ocean above. It is pulling the tides of your own body, just as it pulls the seas. It is steadying the wobble of the earth, so that you can have seasons, so that life can thrive. It is leaving, yes, but it is taking its time. It is a long, slow farewell, gentle enough to let us sleep. For now, it is still here, watching, waiting, guarding the night. Let that thought wrap around you like a heavy blanket. You are small, you are safe, and you are part of a story much older and much larger than yourself. Drift with it now. Let go. We leave the familiar silence of our own silver companion behind now. We leave the Earth, fading into a pale blue dot in the rearview mirror, and drift outward into the crushing depths of the solar system. Here, the sunlight grows weak and cold. The shadows lengthen. We are entering the realm of the giants, Jupiter and Saturn, where gravity is a tyrant and the moons are no longer quiet, rocky sentinels, but living, breathing worlds of fire and ice. As we approach the immense, swirling gravity well of Jupiter, the first thing we encounter is a world that defies the freezing emptiness of space. It is a world of agony and fire. To look at Io is to see a moon that has been turned inside out. It does not look like the gray, cratered worlds we are used to. It is painted in violent hues of sulfur yellow, bruised orange, red, and black. It looks like a piece of abstract art, or perhaps a diseased cell viewed under a microscope. But this coloration is the result of violence. Io is the most volcanically active body in the solar system. It is a biblical version of hell, suspended in the vacuum. Hundreds of volcanoes erupt simultaneously, spewing plumes of molten lava and sulfur dioxide dozens of miles into the black sky. But why? In the freezing cold of the outer solar system, Io should be a frozen block of ice. The secret lies in the dance. Io is caught in a gravitational torture chamber. On one side pulls the colossal gravity of Jupiter. On the other, the rhythmic tug of its sister moons, Europa and Ganymede. This constant tug-of-war stretches and squeezes Io's solid rock interior, as if it were a piece of soft clay. This friction, this planetary kneading, generates immense heat from within. The rock melts, the pressure builds, and the moon screams in eruptions of fire. The surface is constantly being paved over by fresh lava lakes. There are no ancient craters here because the face of Io is erased and redrawn every few millennia. It is a world without a history, forever caught in a painful, fiery present. To stand on its surface would be to stand on a trembling crust, watching the ground bleed fire, while the giant banded eye of Jupiter stares down from above, filling the entire sky. But as we drift away from this inferno, the scene changes instantly. The fire vanishes, replaced by a blinding, pristine white. We have reached Europa. If Io is hell, Europa is a frozen, enigmatic cathedral. It is the smoothest object in the solar system, a billiard ball of ice crisscrossed with reddish cracks and scars that look like veins. There are a few craters here, which tells us that the surface is young. It is alive. But the life of Europa does not come from fire. It comes from water. Beneath that hard shell of ice, which is harder than granite at these temperatures, lies the greatest secret of the Jovian system. A global ocean. A hidden sea of salt water that contains twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. Think about that for a moment. We call Earth the blue planet. Yet this small, icy moon, orbiting in the dark, holds more water than we do. This ocean is kept liquid by the same tidal forces that melt Io. But here, the heat is gentler. It creates a warm, sloshing womb beneath the ice. We can imagine the abyss down there, pitch black, crushing pressure, utterly silent. Yet it may not be dead. On Earth, in the deepest trenches where sunlight never reaches, life clings to hydrothermal vents, feeding on the chemical energy bleeding from the planet's core. Scientists dream that beneath Europa's ice on its dark ocean floor, similar vents might exist. There, in the eternal night, alien ecosystems might be thriving, swimming in a universe of water they believe is the entirety of existence, unaware of the stars, or Jupiter, or us. Europa is a locked treasure chest, and we are still searching for the key. Drifting further out, past the magnetic majesty of giant Ganymede, a moon so large it is bigger than the planet Mercury, possessing its own magnetic shield and its own stacked layers of ice and water, we reach the ancient silence of Callisto. Callisto is the witness. Its surface is the most heavily cratered in the solar system, a frozen record of every stray rock and comet that has passed through this neighborhood for 4 billion years. It is a dark, icy ball that has not changed since the dawn of the planets. It reminds us that in space, memory is physical. Every scar is preserved forever in the deep freeze. We leave Jupiter now, riding the gravitational currents outward to the jewel of the solar system, Saturn. The rings of Saturn stretch out like a divine highway, millions of icy particles dancing in unison. And nestled within this glittering debris are moons that defy imagination. One of them is tiny, barely a speck compared to the giants we have just seen, Enceladus. Enceladus is a world of pure, blinding white snow. It reflects nearly all the sunlight that hits it, making it shine like a star. For a long time, we thought it was just another frozen rock. But then we looked closer at its south pole and saw the tiger stripes, long, deep fractures in the ice, glowing with heat. And from these fractures, something miraculous happens. Enceladus is crying out to the universe. It sprays immense geysers of water vapor, ice crystals, and simple organic molecules, hundreds of miles into space. It is a cryovolcanic wonderland. These plumes are so powerful that they actually create one of Saturn's rings, the E-ring. As Enceladus orbits, it leaves a trail of misty breath behind it. The Cassini spacecraft flew directly through these plumes, tasting the spray. It found salt. It found sand. It found the ingredients for life. Like Europa, Enceladus hides an ocean beneath its crust. But here, the ocean is trying to escape. It is bursting through the seams. To stand on the surface of Enceladus would be to stand in a perpetual, gentle snowfall, watching geysers erupt silently into the black void, creating a curtain of mist that freezes instantly into glittering diamond dust. It is a place of gentle, haunting beauty. A small heart beating with warm water in the coldest reaches of space. Finally, we descend toward the giant of the Saturnian system, Titan. Titan is the only moon in the solar system that feels like a twisted mirror image of Earth. It is wrapped in a thick, suffocating blanket of orange nitrogen atmosphere, denser than our own. We cannot see the surface from space. It is a world of secrets wrapped in haze. But if we descend through those thick, smoggy clouds, we find a landscape that is shockingly familiar, yet chemically alien. On Titan, it rains. But it does not rain water. It rains liquid, methane, and ethane. The temperature is hundreds of degrees below zero. Water here is frozen so hard it acts like rock, forming mountains and valley walls. And flowing through those icy valleys are rivers of natural gas. These rivers meander and flow down to vast calm lakes near the poles. Lakes with names like Kraken Mare and Ligeia Mare. Imagine standing on the shoreline of a Titanian sea. The sky above you is a heavy, dim orange, darker than a stormy day on Earth. The sun is just a tiny bright pinprick in the haze, offering little heat. The gravity is low, making you feel light and ghostly. You look out over the lake, and it is perfectly flat, smooth as glass, because the liquid methane is lighter than water and the winds are gentle. There is no sound of crashing waves, just a soft, oily lapping against the frozen shore. It is a silence that feels thick and ancient. You are standing on a shoreline, watching a cycle of rain and evaporation, rivers carving canyons, clouds drifting overhead. But it is all wrong. It is a chemistry of freezing death for us, yet it mimics the flow of life on Earth perfectly. It is the uncanniest place in the solar system. Some scientists speculate that in these methane lakes, a different kind of life might exist, life not made of water, but of exotic chemistry, swimming sluggishly in the frigid depths, looking up at a hazy orange sky that never clears. These worlds, Io, Europa, and Enceladus, Titan, remind us that our definition of world is too narrow. We tend to think of moons as dead, gray rocks like our own companion. But out here, in the darkness, the moons are the stars of the show. They are active. They are bleeding heat, spewing water, raining gas, and shifting their skins. They are reminders that the universe is far more creative and far more terrifying than we often give it credit for. They are lonely worlds, separated by millions of miles of emptiness. Yet, they are bound together by the invisible, crushing embrace of gravity. They dance for their parent planets, performing a symphony of fire and ice that no human eye has ever seen up close, played out in the dark theater of the outer solar system. And as we drift past them, leaving them to their eternal cycles, we realize that the cold darkness of space is not empty. It is teeming with energy, hidden deep beneath layers of rock and ice, waiting for the moment to break through. We have journeyed through the realm of the magnificent, the fiery, the icy, and the oceanic. But as we drift deeper into the shadows of the solar system, we leave behind the perfection of spheres. Nature, it seems, is not always a master of symmetry. Sometimes, gravity is a messy artist, and the cosmos is littered with its unfinished sketches, its broken fragments, and its strange, lonely misfits. These are the odd wanderers. They do not look like worlds. They look like leftovers, discarded debris from the great construction site of the planets. Yet, in their jagged, irregular forms, they tell a story far more chaotic and ancient than their perfectly round siblings. Our first stop in this gallery of cosmic oddities takes us back to the rings of Saturn. Hidden amongst the shimmering ice particles lies a tiny moon named Pan. If you were to see Pan up close, you might not believe it is a moon at all. It does not look like a celestial body. It looks like food. It is shaped distinctly like a ravioli, or perhaps a flying saucer from a 1950s sci-fi movie. It is a flattened sphere, with a wide, bulging ridge running entirely around its equator. This strange shape is not an accident. Pan is a shepherd moon, a guardian of the Encke gap in Saturn's rings. For eons, it has swept through this lane, clearing a path. As it orbits, its weak gravity gently pulls dust and ice particles from the rings down onto its surface. But because Pan spins, this material doesn't land evenly. It accumulates around the middle, piling up into a soft equatorial mountain range. Pan is a world that has been sculpted by its own environment, wearing the very rings it guards like a skirt. It is a gentle, silent process, a moon growing slowly, grain by grain, in the absolute stillness of the ring system. Drifting further out from Saturn, we encounter a moon that defies the laws of order entirely. Hyperion. If Pan is strange, Hyperion is chaotic. It looks like a giant battered sponge drifting through the dark. Its surface is deeply pitted with craters that are not shallow bowls, but deep, dark tubes, making the entire moon look porous and fragile. It is a low-density world, barely held together by its own gravity, more empty space than rock. But the most unsettling thing about Hyperion is its movement. Every other moon we have visited pirouettes with grace, rotating rhythmically. Hyperion does not. It tumbles. It wobbles drunkenly through space, flipping end over end in a chaotic, unpredictable pattern. If you stood on Hyperion, you would never know when the sun would rise or set. The stars would careen wildly across the sky as the ground beneath your feet pitched and rolled. It is a world without a compass, a relic of a violent collision that knocked it off balance billions of years ago, leaving it to tumble forever, a lost stone skipping across the surface of a dark pond. Leaving the Saturnian system, we drift inward, back towards the red planet, Mars. Here, circling dangerously close to the rusted surface, is Phobos. Phobos is not a noble moon. It is a lumpy, potato-shaped rock, pitted and scarred, looking less like a moon and more like a captured asteroid that wandered too close and got caught. But the tragedy of Phobos is not its shape. It is its fate. Phobos is doomed. Most moons drift away from their planets, but Phobos is spiraling inward. It is caught in a death embrace with Mars. Every century, it is pulled 6 feet closer to the Martian surface. It is a slow-motion execution. The gravity of Mars is relentless, stretching the little moon, stressing its internal structure. We can see the signs of this torture on its surface. Long, deep grooves called stretch marks run across its body. These are the cracks of a world that is slowly failing. In about 50 million years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time, Phobos will reach its breaking point. The gravity of Mars will simply tear it apart. It will shatter silently, crumbling into millions of pieces that will rain down onto the Martian equator or form a ragged ring of dust. To look at Phobos is to look at a ghost in the making. It orbits with the desperate speed of something running out of time, crossing the Martian sky twice a day, a fleeting shadow destined to become dust. Further out, in the cold blue twilight of Uranus, we find the most shattered world of all. Miranda is a Frankenstein moon. It looks as though some cosmic giant took a hammer to it, smashed it into pieces, and then clumsily glued it back together. The surface is a confusing jumble of mismatched terrains. There are cratered plains next to smooth valleys, and strange, chevron-shaped grooves that look like raceways. Geologists believe that Miranda may have been shattered by a massive impact long ago, blown apart into drifting shards, and then reassembled by its own weak gravity. But the pieces didn't fit back together quite right. The result is a landscape of extreme vertigo. The most breathtaking feature here is Verona Rups, a cliff so terrifyingly high it defies logic. Imagine standing at the edge of a precipice. On Earth, the Grand Canyon is deep, but Verona Rupas is a sheer drop of over 12 miles. It is the tallest cliff in the solar system. Because Miranda's gravity is so low, if you were to slip and fall from the edge, you wouldn't plummet. You would drift. You would fall for nearly 10 minutes before hitting the bottom. 10 minutes of silence, floating downward past walls of jagged ice, falling through the twilight. It is a nightmare landscape, a place where the ground itself feels broken and unsure, a monument to the violence that can occur in the quietest corners of space. We drift now to Saturn again, to see a survivor of a different kind. Mima. From a distance, Mima's looks like an eye staring back at you. It is dominated by a single colossal impact feature, the Herschel crater. The crater is so large relative to the moon's size that it makes Mimas look exactly like the fictional Death Star. But this is no space station. This is a scar. The object that hit Mimas was nearly large enough to destroy it completely. If it had been just a little bigger, or moving just a little faster, Mimas would have been pulverized into a ring. Instead, the moon survived, but it was left with a crater that spans a third of its face, with a central mountain peak rising miles into the sky. Shockwaves from that impact rippled through the entire moon, fracturing the crust on the exact opposite side. Mimas is a testament to resilience. It is a small, frozen world that took a bullet for the solar system and kept on orbiting. It spins quietly now, its giant cyclopean eye forever open, watching the rings of Saturn with a blank, stony stare. Finally, we travel to the edge of the map, to the dark, frozen realm of Pluto. Here, in the twilight where the sun is just a bright star, orbits Charon. Charon is so large compared to Pluto that they are more like binary twins than planet and moon. They are locked in a gravitational embrace, always facing each other. But Charon is not just a silent partner, it is a scarred one. Running across its surface is a canyon system that makes Earth's canyons look like scratches in the dirt. It is a gash that nearly splits the moon in two, stretching for hundreds of miles and plunging deeper than Mount Everest is tall. This isn't just erosion, it is a tectonic wound. It suggests that long ago, Charon's internal ocean froze and expanded, bursting the moon's crust open like a seam ripping on an overfilled shirt. It is a landscape of utter desolation. To stand inside that canyon would be to stand in a darkness so deep it would feel suffocating, surrounded by walls of ice that reach up to block out the stars. These odd wanderers, the ravioli, the sponge, the potato, the shattered puzzle, and the scarred twin, remind us that the solar system is not just a place of majestic order. It is a place of history, and history is messy. These moons are the survivors of collisions, captures, and cataclysms. They are the misfits that didn't fit the mold, the debris that refused to be swept away. They drift in the darkness, imperfect and strange, wearing their scars with a quiet dignity. They teach us that beauty in the universe is not always found in the perfect sphere or the glowing ring. Sometimes it is found in the broken things. It is found in the resilience of a moon that is falling apart, or the stillness of a cliff that drops forever into the dark. These are the lonely outposts of the cosmos, the strange islands where the rules of geology were written by chaos. And as we drift past them, watching them tumble and spin in their eccentric rhythms, we can't help but feel a strange affection for them. They are the anomalies. And in a universe of infinite emptiness, it is the anomalies that make the journey worth taking. They are the quiet, broken poems written in rock and ice, waiting for someone to read them. We have explored the faces of the moons, their scars, their fires, and their frozen masks. But now, we must look beyond the surface. We must look at the invisible. In the vast, silent theater of space, nothing truly stands still. Everything is in motion, bound together by the most pervasive and mysterious force in the universe, gravity. Gravity is not just a tether that holds moons in place. It is a conductor. It is a choreographer. It creates rhythms and cycles, forcing massive worlds to dance in patterns so precise they rival the workings of a Swiss watch. To understand the soul of the solar system, we must watch this dance. It is a ballet played out on a stage of infinite black, where the dancers never touch, yet move in perfect, terrifying unison. Our first act takes us to the windy, azure domain of Neptune. Here, in the freezing outer reaches, orbits Triton. We have spoken of Triton's nitrogen geysers, but the true marvel of this moon is not its surface. It is its path. Every other major moon in the solar system orbits in the same direction that its planet spins, a relic of their shared birth from the same swirling disk of dust. But Triton is a rebel. It moves in retrograde. It orbits backwards, fighting the current of Neptune's rotation, a lone figure walking upstream against a rushing river. This backward motion tells us a tragic story. Triton does not belong here. It was likely once a dwarf planet, a king of its own little domain in the Kuiper Belt, until it wandered too close to Neptune. In a violent gravitational capture, Neptune reached out and snatched it from the dark, bending its path forever. Now, Triton is a prisoner, locked in a decaying orbit. Because it moves against the grain, the tidal forces are slowly robbing it of energy. It is spiraling inward. The dance of Triton is a funeral march. It is a reminder that gravity is not always a benevolent parent. Sometimes it is a captor, and its embrace can be deadly. But gravity can also be gentle. It can be polite. For this, we must look to the rings of Saturn, where two small moons, Janus and Epimetheus, perform the most delicate maneuver in the solar system. These two moons are orbital sisters. They share almost the exact same path around Saturn, separated by only about 30 miles, a distance smaller than some cities. In any other system, two worlds sharing an orbit would be a recipe for disaster. They should collide. They should shatter each other into dust. But Janus and Epimetheus do not crash. They dance. Every 4 years, the inner moon, moving slightly faster, catches up to the outer moon. As they draw near, you might expect a violent impact. But gravity works in counterintuitive ways. As they approach, they gently tug on each other. The inner moon gains a little energy from the outer one, which boosts it into a higher orbit. The outer moon loses a little energy, dropping it into a lower orbit. In a graceful, slow-motion do-as-I-do, they swap places. The one that was behind is now in front. The one that was high is now low. They pirouette around one another without ever touching, trading orbits in a silent agreement that has lasted for billions of years. It is a display of cosmic etiquette, so refined it seems almost sentient. A recurring moment of harmony where gravity acts not as a force of destruction, but of balance. Leaving Saturn's delicate waltz, we return to the king of gravity, Jupiter, to witness a rhythm of raw power. This is the Laplace resonance. 3 of the Galilean moons, Io, Europa, and Ganymede, are locked in a strict mathematical beat. For every one orbit Ganymede completes, Europa completes exactly 2, and Io completes exactly 4. It's a cosmic drumbeat. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4, drummed. This is not a coincidence. Over eons, gravity has nudged them into this precise synchronization. But this rhythm has consequences. It is the reason these worlds are alive. Every time Io passes Europa, or Europa passes Ganymede, they tug on each other. These rhythmic yanks deform their orbits, making them slightly oval rather than perfect circles. Because the orbits are oval, the moons move closer to, and then further from Jupiter, with every turn. When they are close, Jupiter's massive gravity stretches them. When they are far, they snap back into shape. This constant stretching and squeezing is the heartbeat of the Jovian system. It is friction on a planetary scale. It is this invisible pumping action that melts the rock inside Io, fueling its volcanoes. It is this same rhythm that keeps the water liquid beneath Europa's ice, preventing it from freezing solid. Without this gravitational dance, Io would be a cold, dead rock, and Europa would be a solid ice ball. The resonance is the engine of life and fire. It turns gravity into heat. It proves that a moon does not need the warmth of the sun to be alive. It only needs the rhythmic tug of its companions. It is a profound realization. These worlds are kept alive by their relationship to one another. Finally, we look to the smallest dancers, the guardians of the rings. We call them shepherd moons around Saturn, and Uranus too. The rings appear to be smooth, continuous sheets of material, but left to their own devices, rings should spread out and dissipate over time. They should lose their shape. The reason they remain sharp, with defined edges and clear gaps, is because of the shepherds. Tiny moons, like Pan, Daphnis, and Prometheus, orbit within or right beside the rings. They act like sheepdogs herding a flock. As they orbit, their gravity nudges stray particles back into line. If a piece of ice drifts too far out, the shepherd moon pulls it back or speeds it up, flinging it back into the fold. Prometheus, a potato-shaped moon orbiting the edge of Saturn's F ring, actually dips into the ring material, creating ripples and wakes that look like streamers. It sculpts the ring as it moves. These shepherds remind us that gravity is a tool of order. Without them, the magnificent rings of Saturn would eventually blur and fade. The beauty we see, the sharp lines, the distinct bands, is being actively maintained, moment by moment, by the vigilance of these tiny moons. They are the unsung custodians of the solar system's greatest jewelry, using their weak gravity to carve beauty out of chaos. As we step back and view the solar system as a whole, we stop seeing isolated rocks floating in the dark. Instead, we see a vast, interconnected machine. We see invisible threads of gravity stretching from world to world, binding them in a complex web of cause and effect. A tug here creates a volcano there. A swap here prevents a collision there. A backward orbit there tells a history of capture. The dance is silent. In the vacuum of space, you cannot hear the hum of resonance or the crash of the tides, but it is there. It is a music written in mathematics, played on instruments the size of worlds. It is a dance that has been going on for billions of years before we opened our eyes to see it, and one that will continue long after we have closed them. It teaches us that nothing exists in isolation. Even in the emptiness of space, every object is influencing every other object. We are all caught in the same web, pushed and pulled by forces we cannot see but must obey. The stability of our days, the tides of our oceans, the seasons of our years, all are gifts of this gravitational choreography. We are drifting in a universe that is not static, but swaying, spinning, and pulsing with a rhythm that is ancient, relentless, and terribly beautiful. We are not just observers of the moon. We are participants in its dance. And tonight, as you lie still, you are moving with it, held safe in the arms of the same force that keeps the planets in their lanes and the oceans in their beds. A force that feels like nothing, but holds everything. We have traveled from the scarred face of our own moon to the volcanic fury of Io, and from the shattered cliffs of Miranda to the invisible rhythmic dance of gravity that binds them all. We have seen worlds of fire and ice, but there is one final frontier left to explore. It is the most profound mystery of all. It is the possibility that in these cold, dark corners of the solar system, something is waiting for us. Something alive. For centuries, humanity believed that life was a child of the sun. We thought that to find biology, we had to look for the Goldilocks zone, that narrow band of warmth where water could flow on a planet's surface. We looked for Earth twins, but the moons have taught us that we were looking in the wrong place. They have rewritten the rule book of life. They have shown us that a world does not need a star to be alive. It only needs a heart. Deep beneath the fractured ice of Europa, or inside the warm belly of Enceladus, there is no sunlight. It is a realm of eternal, crushing blackness. But down there, on the seafloors of those hidden oceans, scientists believe something miraculous might be happening. They envision hydrothermal vents, towering chimneys of rock spewing mineral-rich, superheated water from the moon's core into the freezing sea. On Earth, in the deepest trenches of our own oceans, places where the sun has never shone, such vents are teeming with life. They are oases in the abyss, surrounded by tube worms, ghostly crabs, and blind shrimp, all fueled not by photosynthesis, but by chemosynthesis, eating the chemistry of the rocks themselves. If this can happen here, why not there? In those alien oceans, the chemical ingredients for life, carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, are swirling in a warm, salty soup. It is a prebiotic chemistry, a laboratory that has been running experiments for billions of years. We can imagine microscopic life forms, simple and ancient, drifting in the dark currents of Europa, clinging to the warmth of the vents. They would know nothing of the stars, or of Jupiter, or of us. Their entire universe would be a dark, warm ocean, capped by a ceiling of living ice. The existence of such life would prove that biology is not a miracle unique to Earth, but a natural consequence of the universe, waiting to spark wherever water and heat meet in the dark. But our solar system is just one tiny island in a vast archipelago. When we look up at the night sky, we see thousands of stars. We now know that almost every star hosts planets. And if our solar system is any guide, those planets must host moons. There could be trillions of them. We call them exomoons. We have not seen them yet. They are too small and faint for our current telescopes to capture clearly. But the math insists they are there. Imagine the variety. If our single sun can produce a family as diverse as Io, Titan, and Iapetus, imagine what orbits the strange stars of the galaxy. There might be Earth-sized moons orbiting gas giants in the habitable zones of red dwarf stars. These supermoons could have thick atmospheres, liquid oceans on their surface, and continents covered in alien forests. They would look up not at a moon, but at a planet filling half their sky, a giant, swirling marble that glows in the night. The possibilities are infinite. We may find that the most common habitat for life in the universe is not on planets at all, but on the moons that circle them. We may be the anomaly, living on a lonely rock, while the rest of the universe lives on the companions. This brings us to a humbling realization about the role these silent sentinels play. They are not just decorations, they are guardians. Think back to the battered surface of Callisto, or the cratered highlands of our own moon, Every one of those pockmarks is a record of a violent impact. Every crater represents an asteroid or a comet that was swept up by the moon's gravity or blocked by its body. For billions of years, the moons have acted as cosmic shields. They have stood in a line of fire. While they cannot stop everything, they have thinned the herd of debris that might otherwise have devastated their parent planets. How many times has Earth been spared a catastrophe because our moon was there to take the blow instead? But their guardianship goes deeper than simple protection. It touches the very stability of our existence. Without the moon, Earth would be a chaotic, wobbling world. The gravity of our companion acts as a steady hand on Earth's shoulder, holding our tilt constant at 23.5 degrees. This stability gives us our regular seasons. It gives us the predictable rhythm of winter and summer, allowing life to adapt and evolve over long ages. Without the moon, Earth's axis could swing wildly over millions of years. We might tip over until the poles face the sun, melting every scrap of ice and burning the continents, then swing back into a deep freeze. Such climate chaos might have prevented complex life from ever arising. We might still be simple bacteria, clinging to a rock that couldn't decide which way was up. In a very real sense, we owe our existence to the silver orb that lights our way to bed. It is the anchor that holds our world steady in the shifting winds of space. So, as we reach the end of our journey tonight, step back and look at the whole picture. We live in a universe of relationships. Planets hold moons. Moons stabilize planets. Gravity binds them. Tides warm them. Nothing is truly alone. Even in the deepest vacuum, there is connection. We are not so different from these wandering worlds. Like them, we are travelers. We are all drifting through a vast, dark space, held in place by forces we cannot see. The gravity of our families, the orbits of our routines, the tidal pull of our dreams. We too have our scars, our hidden oceans, and our quiet phases. We too are capable of reflecting light into the darkness. As you lie there now, feel the gravity that holds you to your bed. It is the same force that grips the moon. It is the same force that squeezes the heart of Io and shepherds the rings of Saturn. You are connected to it all. You are part of this great silent machinery. There is no need to worry about tomorrow right now. The universe has been spinning for 13 billion years without your help, and it will carry you safely through the night. The moons are keeping watch. The tides are rising and falling in their ancient rhythm. The shields are up. You are safe. Let your mind drift away from the details. Let the images of ice cliffs and methane lakes fade into a soft blur. Let the fire of Io dim to a warm ember. Let the silence of the vacuum wrap around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. You are a traveler in the dark, but you are not lost. You are exactly where you are meant to be, caught in the gentle gravity of sleep. And so, our journey through the quiet company of moons comes to an end. We have drifted from the familiar silvered glow of our own night sky to the frozen oceans of Europa and the methane rains of Titan. We have seen that the darkness is not empty, but filled with companions, guardians, and dancers, moving to the silent rhythm of gravity. As you lie there now, let these images fade into the soft distance. You are no longer a traveler. You are simply resting, held safe by the same forces that keep the planets in their orbits. The universe is vast and ancient, and it will carry on its beautiful silent work while you sleep. There is nothing left to solve, nothing left to do. Just let go. If this voyage into the stars helped quiet your mind tonight, please consider subscribing to the Sleepy Science podcast. Your support allows us to keep exploring the cosmos together, one peaceful night at a time. Thank you for listening. Drift away now, into the deep, velvet dark. Good night.